Eileen, I'm really happy to be here to interview you.
Very
Thank you
good.
for agreeing to do this with me.
Thank you for asking.
So first, could you introduce yourself, your name, where do you live, what do you do?
Okay, my name is Eileen Grace Hope, and I live in this area of Mission Valley, which is near the bay, which is where I need to be, where it's cool. And I am a distinguished Toastmaster. I'm also a docent at the San Diego Museum of Art and past American Association of University Women.
Mm-hmm. And what was your profession?
I was a journalist. Myself, I was a newspaper reporter, and my husband was an editor.
What does your name mean? Does it have any history or story?
Yeah, I had to look it up last night because I didn't know what it meant. I know it's Irish, and it's one of the names that's become popular in the last year or two. And it says the anglicized version of Gaelic Evelyn, and it means little bird, strength, and desired. So, and it derives from the French word Aveline. Wow, I didn't even know that. So, but I'm half Italian and half Irish.
Italian Irish.
And my dad obviously got the first pick because I'm Eileen and my sister's Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
My mother got second pick, so I'm Eileen Grace, and my sister is Kathleen Marie. Those
Okay.
are the Italian.
Okay. So your dad picked your name.
Oh yeah.
Next, I have a few Toastmaster related questions.
Okay.
Because I came to know you from Toastmasters.
Right.
And I know you're a very experienced Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster. You have a lot of experience with the leadership in the district, in the region. And so I have a few questions about those.
Okay.
How long have you been a Toastmasters?
Actually, I looked it up, and it was February 1st, 1996. So quite a few years.
That's 37
Yeah.
years, I think.
And I've been a docent since 1984.
84.
Yeah. Okay. My kids were little at that point.
I was 2 years old.
Yeah, I believe it.
And how did you get into Toastmaster originally?
It's funny because one of my docent friends was from Austria, and she wanted to work on losing a lot of her accent. So she joined Balboa Park Toastmasters. She came and tape recorded a tour I was doing of some judges from Japan. I was explaining the art to them one evening. And so she taped me, and I listened to the tape, and I said, oh, I need this. At 10 o'clock at night, I called her up and I said, where is it? When is it? How much is it? I'll be there. And was the start. So I went to the meeting, and there were only 3 women out of that whole group of 20 something. So I didn't really speak very much. And when they asked me a tabletop question, I usually said I didn't know, and I just sat down for a whole year. And then finally, I knew the answer to a question. I didn't realize you could fabricate or you could stretch it out. So I knew an answer, and everybody gave me a standing ovation, which helped. And that was kind of the beginning of the journey, and realizing I only went in to get rid of my ums and ahs and those long pauses. And then another lady in the club, her name was Alma Church, who has since died. She encouraged me to do a lot of other things, and she kept asking me to be an officer. Mm-hmm. So finally became president, and you'll love this. I was looking for somebody to speak to the club, and I was really new at being a Toastmaster. So I heard about this lady who gave us absolutely smashing speech about what Toastmasters can do for you. So I got her phone number, and I called her up, and I think it was like 97 or 98. I'd only been a Toastmaster for a short while. And she said she'd be happy to come. So it was a hot day in Balboa Park, and it's hard to park in Balboa Park. And she was an older lady, and I was surprised, but she came and she was just, full of energy and so nice. She gave her speech, and we just thought she was wonderful. And then a couple of months later, there was a conference, and I went in and I realized she was the guest speaker. And it turned out she was Helen Blanchard. I had no idea who she was. And we became friends from that moment on. And
she was the
first woman president of Toastmasters International, and she actually lived on Point Loma. And when she died, I myself, Joyce Persicelli, and myself really put the Toastmaster part of her service together, and I wrote the back of her program. So, but she had told her minister to call me and ask me to do it. I was so shocked. And then Joyce and I have most of her stuff because she had left it that we could take anything we would like. So we have a lot of her personal things, including the pictures and the lectern she used. So we're debating what we're going to do with that.
We should set up a museum about it.
Yeah.
Put it somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe Toastmasters International, but we have to get them to say what they'll do with it, because we don't want it in a drawer. Another thing about, you never know who you're going to meet in Toastmasters. People you would never in your life have a chance to meet because you don't travel in the same circles or you don't live near anybody. But here, we meet people from all over the world.
Yeah.
So
Balboa Park Toastmaster Club is the first club you joined.
That's my home club. And this year it's been President's Distinguished for the 20 years in a row.
Oh, 20 years.
Yeah, we're very proud of that.
Do you know which club that Helen Blanchard belonged to?
Yes, Naval R&D.
Naval R&D.
That was the club when her boss told her she needed to go to Toastmasters because she was going to have to make presentations. And she was not a college graduate, and she was a little leery of doing all this, but she was really intelligent. So when they actually sent her to Guantanamo to do something with torpedoes because she was that good. But she said that when she went to the meeting, they said you can't come because it's all males. And then they called her back and said, the Navy told us we can't discriminate. So they called her back. She went in as Homer Blanchard. That's what they picked the name for. And to the day she died, that was her email, Homer Blanchard.
Currently, what clubs are you a member of?
Balboa Park is my home club. I belong to Excelsior, an advanced club that meets once a month. And I belong to Naval R&D, which I joined as a tribute to Helen. That was a goal of mine at some point, to join that club and give it some help. Very proud of that club. And I belong to the past district governors and leaders club in Los Angeles called Club 407, where we have past international presidents and past international directors and all people from all over. So we draw for our club there. We draw from Long Beach to Santa Barbara, out to Palm Desert, and San Diego and Arizona. The first time I received an evaluation. It was from Alfred Herzing, who was a past international president, and I was just waiting for him to nail me. Fortunately, he liked my speech, and he was very praiseworthy. Gave me pointers, because if you don't get feedback that tells you how to improve, I don't know that it's really worthwhile to give the speech. But he was good.
When did you receive the Distinguished Toastmaster title?
I have to look that up too, because I have 11 and I'm working on number 12. But the first one was 2004.
2004. And how many of them are traditional menu and how many are pathways?
Let's see. I think 1 or 2 are pathways. The rest are the traditional.
Okay. How did you feel when you received your first one?
Oh, absolutely incredible, because that's a lot of speeches just for the one. You consider how many speeches. I don't even know how many speeches I've given for just to get a DTM. But you think about how many, there were 10 and such, 20,
Mm-hmm.
plus all the others you give. And I have 3 speeches that I like to work on. One is about organ donation. Another one is about getting the right set of circumstances for you when you're older, like when you have to sign up for Social Security. I do have speech about that. And I have what about child safety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've given those speeches, San Francisco, LA.
How about the first DTM for the pathways? Did you feel any different?
Well, because it was pathways, it was different. And yeah, in a way, it was just following along. I got in a groove, and that was the way. When I was district leader, I made a kind of a pact with my club. I said, I will not be around a lot, so you're going to have to carry the ball to be distinguished, and we like to keep it up. I believe I was the one that started that in our club. So they did, and I said, when I come back, if you still work, I'll work. And they've held me to that. So that's why I give speeches, and especially since I belong to several clubs, and I guest speak at some clubs.
Do you remember how many speeches have you given overall?
I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you. Somebody'd have to tell me how many you give for a DTM. I don't know.
A DTM would usually like 30 to 40 speeches.
11 times that.
11 times. Yes, about 300, 400, 500 maybe.
A lot of speeches.
Which one was your favorite?
This is funny. Jim McLaughlin, do you know him?
Yes, I know him.
Okay. He will tell you the story. When I was brand new and I was going to a speech contest up at Kearney Mesa, I couldn't find the place. I was getting exasperated, and finally I found the place, that I just got there just before it started, and I was sure I was going to be late. So I walked into the door, and this guy says, "Are you Eileen?" And I said, "Yeah, but I'm a new Toastmaster. How do you know me?" And he said, "Oh, your friends volunteered you." And I said, "What friends?" He said, "Lynn Kadushian and Joyce Persicelli." And I said, what did they volunteer me for? And they said, "Well, the test speaker is stuck on the freeway with a flat tire. And they said you could give your icebreaker." And I said, "Sure, I could give my icebreaker." So I didn't know any better. So I gave my icebreaker as a test speaker, and Jim McLaughlin won. So yes, I usually say yes to speeches. And after I met Darren LaCroix in an elevator and trapped him into coming to San Diego to speak for us at a conference, I never say no.
What leadership positions have you held in Toastmasters?
Oh, goodness. Well, I've been the district leader 2005, 2006, and that was a tough year. That was the year the dues were raised for the first time in 12 years. And at the World Convention,
So you increased it to $45.
I don't even remember what the increase was, but it was big. It was a big increase from what it was. And there were 2 lines of people for and against it at the World Convention. And I think we went till midnight, them arguing, but it got passed and the dues were increased. And a lot of people belonged to 5 and 6 clubs. That didn't work out for them. So we really had to work. My team worked and worked to get to where we wanted to be. Our goal was to be distinguished because we hadn't been distinguished in a lot of years. And we came down to the last, I think it's the last day, and we still had one club that hadn't paid their dues.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew what had happened. And we knew they were a viable club. So what we did is, like, I personally called the home of the president, got the wife, and I said, "Where's your treasurer? He hasn't paid the dues." She said, "Really?" She said, "I don't." She said, "Oh, wait a minute. He's the one that left town, and we don't know what happened."
Oh.
So I said, "Well, do you have the checkbook?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, I ran across it the other day. My husband was telling me about it." I said, "Is he home?" And she said, "He'll be home in an hour." And I said, "Would you tell him I'll be there? At 2:05, I'll be there." And I was, and he signed the check, and I drove it to Toastmasters International and paid their dues.
Yeah, back then you can still go to the headquarters
Because
yourself.
it was in Rancho Santa Margarita. So I paid the dues, and we were a distinguished district. But everybody on my team did something like that. They worked and worked and worked, and then we were so proud that we were on the stage in Washington, D.C. But this will tell you how hard it was that year. There were only 21 districts.
Oh, only 21.
Only 21 up on the stage when they used to have the dais, that level of chairs and tables up there. And it was lonely, but only 21 districts. And there's like 100 and some districts. So,
Yeah, this year, also the last minute, the inland division achieved distinguished division.
But sometimes it takes that one person to say, "Okay, let's figure this out." I wasn't working. Everybody else was working. I could do it. I could take the time, make the phone call, and go get it. And it was in Oceanside, too, where I had to go pick the check up.
So how do you feel? You were the district leader and you're working with the club. How would you feel? I kind of, being the division director, I kind of have a feeling I should let the area director do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel, if you contact the club directly, do you feel overstepping or not? What's the balance?
I would say that I would prefer my area directors to do their job. But if I find that they are having a problem, I would ask them, "You haven't contacted your clubs. Is there a problem?" And then they say, "Oh, no, I'm going to do it." Then I would have to say, "All right, by Friday, I want you to contact the clubs and call me up and tell me which clubs you did." And sometimes that they'll say, "I really can't do it."
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take over and do it.
Okay, so give them a chance.
Give them a chance, but an absolute deadline and not very far out, because they've had all these opportunities. And the idea, we're all volunteers, but if you make a commitment at your work, mm-hmm. or your church or your scout troop, if you make that commitment, you better do it or tell somebody, because a lot of people can be hurt because of it.
Mm-hmm. What other leadership positions have you held?
Here in Toastmasters?
Yeah, in Toastmasters. I know you've been a region advisor, have you?
No, I have not been a region advisor. I am the one that's always in the background doing things. Like if somebody, I can't tell you how many times I've been the conference chair, because we came back from going to the World Convention in August and found out, whoops, the person who was being the conference chair either didn't do it or had some family problem, and so I pick up the pieces and put them.
The conference chair of the district, or
conference chair of when we have a fall conference. So I've done that quite a few times. I have been conference chair quite a few times just on my own, and recently I've been the contest chair for on and off for several years, and that's really been interesting because as I told some of the Toastmasters, said, when I said I'd be contest chair for the pandemic and we went online, I never realized that I was going to have to study up to be a lighting director, a color analyst, a placement person for the people in their box and where to lay tape on the floor. And I just had no thought of that, but I'm good at it. So, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I love helping people. Also, people will come and ask me to help them. And one lady, this is perfect. We had a contestant from our district who insisted that she loved beige. And we said, but you're beige. And if you wear beige, nobody will see you on the stage. So you need to wear red lipstick and another color. So she wouldn't listen to us, and she would practice at all the clubs. She had a great speech. So we went to the World Convention, and there was the semifinals, and she came out and could not believe it. The curtain behind her was beige. She wore beige, did not wear red lipstick, and you could hear her, but it was just like, where is she? She didn't place at all. And she came and said later, oh, I should have listened. And that's when we realized, yeah, color makes a difference. And recently I was helping a lady who was get in the contest last year. She called and said, can you look and see what I look like? And she had on red in front of purple, and it came out very ugly color. So we fixed that. But who knew? Who knew? Or the man who said, I don't care what my background is. And he had all these books and things, plaques. And so people were focusing in on what was on instead of listening to his speech. It was terrible. Okay. But you can have a lot of fun in Toastmasters.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think is the most important quality of a leader?
You have to live the life, walk the walk. If you want people to follow you, you have to be true. You have to be honest. And you have to be able to buck people up when they need it. Otherwise, nobody will follow or listen to you. And I'm proud to say that I helped so many people on my way up that when I became the district leader, they called me and said, what can I do for you? And so I had all my area directors, I had everything, everybody in line before I even took office. But it pays off. I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because I wanted to help people. And it was wonderful to meet all these people and work with them. Plus how much I learned. Oh my goodness. That's just amazing. But you need followers too. Followers are the backbone of anything. If you don't have people who will follow you and help you in your business, nothing gets done. It's a committee of chaos. If you're a good leader, they'll follow you and they'll fulfill what they need to do, and everybody wins.
So what lessons have you learned as a leader?
To make sure you keep the promises and that you are on time, timely, no procrastination. Procrastination is a word that high school, and that's where it should be left. No procrastination anymore. There's no time. I mean, you have a new baby. You can't procrastinate feeding her. So you can't do that. You have, yes, we're a volunteer organization, but think how much we accomplish when we all do what we say we're going to do, and how much easier it is on us for stress if we don't wait to finish something. And for heaven's sake, call for help if you need it.
What awards have you received in Toastmasters?
I was just telling you, I have a box about this big and about that tall my daughter packed. I pulled a few things out over here. I've been the contest chair, the conference chair, special events chair, just so many. And I went through all the three chairs in the trio. I went through all so that I really knew what I was doing. And then because I belonged to Club 407 in Los Angeles with all the past international people, when I had a problem that no one here was able to help, I was able to get them to help me. And that was good. We actually had meetings before their meetings where they actually had maybe 7 or 8 of them would sit for an hour and discuss what the problems were and help me fix them.
Did you receive Toastmaster of the Year?
3 times.
3 times.
Last year was the most recent.
What was the qualification for Toastmaster of the Year?
You'd have to look that up. I'm not really sure. I know that the last year I was the contest chair. I believe I might have been the Western Division chair.
You are.
And that was the one that had no area directors. So I used.
No, I think the year before.
You were
the Western Division director.
Yeah, and there were no area directors. Nobody had volunteered. So I took that over with the thought I can use my leadership skills to convince other people to assist me, which I did. I had people go to visit clubs that I couldn't visit. And we got all the visits in before Halloween, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So it can be done, but it was a fact of the leadership skills that I learned and the people that I had met through the time. I was able to call on them, and they were able to call on me for help too. So
I know there's a Helen Blanchard Award. Have you received that?
Yes.
Yeah, when was that?
I think it was 2014. I'm not really good on dates. And a lot has happened in these years. So
was it only awarded to women?
No.
No.
No. There are several gentlemen who have won it.
What's that qualification for that?
It's very simple. It's what it says on the Helen Blanchard Award. I helped her put that together. And the first recipient was Joyce Persa-Kelly. And I knew who she wanted for that. So she wasn't able to get out and do things because she was a little bit ill at that time. So we picked out a plaque and she okayed it, and then we put the words together and she changed it to what she liked. And it's very simple. A very simple statement that a person that has shown that they really have helped. And there's no big thing about it. It's just somebody who's really shown in themselves to be a good Toastmaster. And you have to I'll give you the exact words on it too. I still have it I still have Helen's emails about it on my computer. So, but, and then she picked the first one, and then she had something to do with picking the second one. And then her answer to me was, and after I'm gone, I want the winners of this to pick the future ones, which we've been doing.
Okay.
So
is it award in the district or in the international level?
It's our district.
Our district.
Yes. Definitely our district, yeah.
And have you been a area director of the year, division director of the year?
Yes. I'm one of those. I've learned. I used to say yes to everything. Now I say I will think about it for a few days or a week or a month, and then I'll get back with you. But usually, if I can't do it, I'll suggest somebody else who can. So the idea is I try to do a Dare in the crisis. Stage time, stage time, stage time. Go ahead and do it.
So out of all of these awards, which one are you most proud of?
Ooh, I would say the Helen Blanchard Award is really important to me because I knew her so well. I used to visit her when she was in the hospital, nursing home, whatever, rehabilitation. She was just a great person, but we were quite a pair. She was pretty close to 6 feet, and I'm 5 feet. So it's
That's tall.
interesting.
That's tall.
Yeah,
Tall
she's
woman.
a tall, very tall woman.
Overall, how did Toastmaster help you either in your life or at work?
Oh my goodness, my docent tours at the museum became very, very good. They were okay. We get passing grades. People test us to see how we're doing. And I always did well, but after Toastmasters, it was a slam dunk, because I
Uh-huh.
could do that. And interestingly enough, the year that I joined Toastmasters was the year museums all over the world changed from a lecture to the tour group to interactive.
Uh,
And I had one friend who is she's a Phi Beta Kappa, but she can memorize a page, but she couldn't be interrupted.
uh-huh.
And she really had a terrible time. I had a great time. I was having conversations with the audience, and what didn't matter. I even took on what no one else would do, and that was Montessori children that were 3 and 4 years old. Their parents brought the class to the museum, and nobody wanted the 3 and 4 year olds. And I said, I'll do it. So I made the parents go stand against the wall and take their binkies and their blankets. And I had the children sit on the floor. And I had a conversation with them, just as if I was a Toastmaster in a club giving a speech. And I handed them colors and I handed them shapes. And they told me what they saw in the pictures. And like I said, if it wasn't for Toastmasters, I wouldn't have been as confident. That's it. The confidence level is something that's amazing, because I wasn't that confident, but boy, after a while. And after those little kids' parents came back afterwards and said, I didn't even know they.
Any interesting stories during your Toastmaster journey?
Oh, several times I have been picked out of the audience to give a speech because somebody didn't show up. And all I could say is, have a pocket speech ready, and you'll have people really appreciate you. I usually have some kind of speech that I could give. If you're, I visited your club and you said, well, can you give a speech? Nobody showed up today. I can do that.
Mhm.
But that's because of Toastmasters and the confidence that's been built over the years. And that's
Any
kind of shocking that you can be picked out.
any challenges did you have in your Toastmaster journey?
I didn't understand when I first became district leader. When I went to the training session at the World Convention, I didn't understand why they put me in conflict resolution, the very first educational thing that they put us in, the trio. I could figure it out. And when I got back, we could say all hell broke loose because all kinds of problems started coming up. I even had to call in a mediator because of the problems. And at least I knew what to do.
In a district?
Yes.
Oh.
At least I knew what to do. But I was so shocked. And then I said, now I give a speech about you should download the conflict resolution packet and you should keep it with you. It works with teenagers, it works with adults, it works with little children. Just realize that Toastmasters is here to help you. They have an answer to a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. We got through it, and we were a distinguished district for the first time in several years.
What's your current focus in Toastmasters?
Right now, I'm mentoring a couple of people. who shall remain nameless. But I am mentoring them because they have some difficulties in not procrastinating, or they do procrastinate. So we're working on that. And then I'm available for anyone to contact me and if they need help in something.
Mhm. This year, I volunteered to be the public relations manager for District
Right.
5. I thought I wanted to take a break from the district, but I started a personal journey of trying to build up YouTube channel. So trying some, maybe making as my new career.
Ah.
And I thought these two efforts can actually combine together. I can, while
Uh-huh.
doing the social media YouTube channel, I can just help, just volunteer to be the public relations manager,
Right.
and also helping the district to promote Toastmasters.
Right.
So for you've been a district leaders for many years, what suggestions or advice could you give me as the new public relations manager?
I was public relations manager back several years ago, and there were still newspapers around to work with. And the TV stations, uh, they were a little bit more difficult to work with. Now there's fewer newspapers for sure. And I don't know about how the TV stations are, but it sure would be good if you could get in with him. I don't know if there's even, some kind of reason why they'd interview somebody from Toastmasters in District 5. We'll have to create some kind of an idea that they would want to come out and cover it. But definitely social media, that seems to be what really attracts people. I know that we ask people who come to our club, where they found us. A lot of times they'll tell us on social media, and sometimes they'll tell us they went to the Toastmaster International site and just put their area in and where they live, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it's found. But I still think social media is important,
Yeah.
really important. Just trying to figure out what would pull somebody in to watch yours rather than somebody else's.
That concludes our first part about Toastmasters.
Oh, this is this says for participation at the International Convention, Phoenix, Arizona, August 2007. And this is where I was chosen to be on a panel of 5 Toastmasters district governors at that time who had been distinguished or better. And it was really fun to do. So that's that one. And let's see. I have to see what this one says. For outstanding contribution to the success of the Region 2 conference. And the date is 2007, June 1st and 2nd. So that's when we had regional conferences. And that was fun because when I was district governor, guess where the region was? The region
San Diego.
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
So I got to go on stage in Hawaii and tell them that the next region event would be in San Diego.
Oh.
Yes, this is the trophy, which is given to each winner of the Toastmaster of the Year award, and you get to keep it at your house or business or your office for a year. And then it's turned in, and the next one is added. The next one is added, and this is one I have 3 times. My name's on here 3 times. If you look at this, you'll see this is my first Toastmaster, Distinguished Toastmaster Award, and I believe it's dated 2004.
Yes.
So that's the first one. That's the way it used to look, and I have others that are the new model.
I like
Two of
this.
those. I think I have two of those new models.
I like this old version.
Yeah, I do too. I really like this one.